And now we move on to a work-life expert and consultant. She will be taking us into the future of work. Her title is the following: The 3 Critical Shifts of the Way to View Success That Will Help You Lead Your Team into the Future. Let's welcome Susanne Grant. Susan.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sound is perfect. It's looking very good. The floor is yours.
Hey. Perfect. Picture this. It's 1926. The miners in Britain are on strike and demanding better work conditions, and the news dominates the headline for months. In London, Scottish inventor John Logie Baird is presenting the first ever television in his laboratory, and Robert Goddard is successfully launching the first ever liquid fuel rocket, something that plays an important part later in the 60s in a space program. Coco Chanel, known for her famous iconic black dress and fashion, is on the front cover of the magazine Vogue, and attorney Violet Anderson is the first Black woman ever to admitted to practice for the Supreme Court in the United States of America. 1926 is a time of political unrest, and many countries see their governments overthrown. And of course, Betty White, we all know this famous actress, is already alive, and she is turning 5 that very same year. Well, in this period, Henry Ford, Mr. Productivity himself, is starting to give his workers in his factories the weekend off. So he is one of the first to implement the 5-day, 40-hour work week. This is something we've now been doing for almost 100 years, and we're still holding on, in my opinion, an outdated concept. A lot has changed since. With the invention of electricity, we can basically work day and night, and thanks to technology, almost any job can be done from anywhere. And productivity hasn't just increased, doubled, tripled. It's been estimated to has increased well over 300% these past few decades. Yet we pay a hefty price for the so-called the progress we have made. Just in the UK alone, the mental health related absence cost companies every year 45 billion. And suicide is still the #1 cause of death in the age group 21 to 45 here in the UK, which means just from the start of my presentation, another 6 people tried to take their own lives. Now, these last few years, we've seen also the Great Resignation, where people are leaving their jobs at a much higher rate, especially parents, and of that group, mostly mothers, are leaving the workforce. This outdated concept that work has to be 5 days, 40 hours, and often in a 9 to 5 has a massive effect on the current workforce. Even the pay gap is still a whopping 22.1%, and diversity across the board and C-suite is still often far to be found. And now, valuable talent is walking out of the door. The way we approach work hasn't changed much since the Second World War. Yet, we are due for a drastic upgrade, and we see billions being lost each year on health-related absence cost, turnover, and recruitment costs. But is the solution we are looking for right in front of us? I believe it's time to redefine success in the workplace and normalize life beyond the desk. And in order to do so, we need to make 3 critical shifts in the way we view work. These shifts that I propose are putting people before profits, results before our presence, and caring responsibility before work responsibility. Let me explain what I mean by that. Putting people before profit. It's an old-fashioned, outdated belief that the work we put in is directly correlated to the work we put out. Perhaps this used to be the case when the bookkeepers were writing with their quills on their papers, but even the simplest process has been improved over the past few years. Yet, the way we approach people within the business and often view them as just a number that's easily replaced is having more damage than we perhaps realize. The pandemic made most of us work from home, and doing a quick head count in the morning to see if everyone was in the office and being present didn't work anymore. I've seen news on my timeline, and perhaps you've seen them too, where companies start to install spy software to make sure their employees were sitting in front of the computer or laptop at home to make sure they were present. This is not the way to support your team, and micromanaging is not going to help make them more productive. Why? Because presentism, the act of being present but not getting much done because you're not feeling well that day, is actually costing us 3 times more than the 45 billion in the UK alone that I just mentioned. So it's a very expensive way to approach work. It's no secret that when it comes to equality inside the home, women do much more inside the home than their male component, and these responsibilities have often been dismissed as not important enough. Yet women make only up about 50% of the workforce. They do give birth to 100% of the future workforce, and dismissing the efforts these families, especially the mothers, are doing to contributing to the future workforce is not a very wise approach. And it's not until we start valuing what is happening inside our home, we can have the impact outside the home we've been trying, but clearly have been failing to achieve. So that's why I believe we need to normalize life beyond the desk and take a holistic approach to solving these issues we've been seeing in the workplace. But what can we do now to make this work? Do you have any idea? Do let us know in the comments, because I would love to hear from you. But as you do, there's a slight delay, so let me continue in the meantime. In business, we have something called the KPIs. If you don't know what these are, KPIs stands for Key Performance Indicator, and it's just a way to track how the business is doing. So for example, revenue growth, profit margin, how happy your clients are, and if they're staying or all just leaving to go work with your competitor. So now, of course, this is the question, how can KPIs help to solve these issues we've been seeing in the workforce? What I propose we start doing is something I like to call the RDS KPIs, the Redefined Success KPIs, where we tie the outcomes from what we're looking for, such as closing the pay gap, getting a more diverse and equal team, to the outcomes to the managers and the CEOs. So for example, if a manager is responsible for hiring 100 new employees, and they want the team to be inclusive with different genders, backgrounds, etc. If those goals aren't achieved, then the manager doesn't receive his year of end bonus or her payout, or of course just a part. So there are different ways of fixing these issues we've been talking about for way too long right now, but making those connected to the managers and the CEOs in charge to actually solve these issues now. And of course, also providing them with the tools to do so. So just to summarize, the 5-day work week is an outdated concept that has a huge impact on the way we view work. In often cases, it's not inclusive. And by holding on to this outdated concept, we are having a ripple effect in how well work could be. It was implemented at a time where we assumed someone else would be taking care of the cooking, the cleaning, and the children. And in order to fix the issues we've been seeing in the workplace, where we make sure mental health, well-being, and productivity are on the top of our priority list, we need to stop viewing work and life separately. Make those in charge responsible now by tying the outcomes to the managers and CEOs in charge, so he or she can directly take the lead and lead their team into the future, and start investing in the workforce of the future by giving families, especially the women, the tools to succeed in a modern day workplace. Well, my name is Susanne Grant. This was my talk for the Future Focused Leadership Competition. Back to you in the studio.
Thank you, Susanne. How refreshing that was. Thank you very much for those insights. And it seems that when we talk about the future of work, we talk about changing our mindset about where our strength comes from our humanity, and treating people like humans and not machines that have to produce some output. But it seems that a lot of this thinking, from what we read in some companies, faces a lot of resistance still today, as you know. Profits seem to be more important than people. Hours seem to be still more important than results, and we care much more about work responsibilities than home responsibilities, if at all. What are the, of course you gave us your recipe, but what is it in your opinion that is slowing us the most towards this transition towards a better future in this respect?
I think the biggest realization companies have to make, and especially of course when I work with them, is looking at it from short-term to a long-term perspective. Because of course, short-term, we want to make sure we hit those quarterly, yearly objectives, right? But long-term, if that means 70% turnover rates, 40% of the staff is on burnout leave, whatever the numbers are, of course, it is really costly long-term to not implement a proper strategy in this way. So that's the biggest thing that of course when I run the numbers with them, this is how you're actually spending on not prioritizing the people. And then it of course starts to click that they go, oh, of course.
Thank you for making it click again for us tonight. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.